All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in for episode 6. Today we're going to talk about who we voted for and why and the results of the presidential election. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about trucks. Dustin says something dumb and then we laugh and then we can roll into it. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the RealTruck Nation Podcast, episode 6. I am Forrest and I'm here with Chris and Dustin. So let's go ahead and just try to kick it off. SEMA is happening this week. Dustin, what have you been seeing on the? So
everyone knows SEMA, as it's really just kind of like a media galore, builds and competitions, and really lots of cool eye candy and stuff out there. Well, obviously none of that's on the internet right now because SEMA, that portion of SEMA, is not happening. With the pandemic and everything. Really just kind of put a halt on that. They were a little bit too much risk actually running those with that many people around the convention center. So they actually moved SEMA, or at least a portion of it, online. So we're still in the SEMA action this week. We're still seeing new products, talking to a bunch of manufacturers out there, see what they got going on for the next year really. But yeah, as far as the big show that is SEMA, the things that people are used to seeing online and stuff, that part was canceled, unfortunately, and just all moved online. So we still have speakers, still have the convention, still talking and communicating with the people in the industry. So
are the vendors essentially still in Las Vegas in the convention center, and then people just don't get tickets, or they're at their own facility? Everyone's streaming it
at their own facility, their own home. I actually I participated in a couple of the, what are they called? Just where they sit and talk, like kind of town halls or whatever. And all of it's been through webcam. All of it's been everyone at their own home, social distancing and stuff. But these are still the manufacturers and the product managers and all that kind of stuff. So so we're still kind of in the trenches with SEMA, still seeing what's going on for next year. It's just not quite the spectacle it has been. That everyone knows, SEMA for. So there won't be any.
It's kind of a bummer.
There won't be any 9-hour exit parades. There won't be any burnout contests. No,
It is a bummer.
Nothing as crazy as
SEMA's a good time. You see some of the best builds
in
the world there, and see all the new product releases and collaborations.
Yeah,
and all
it really
cool
is
stuff,
trying. Which brand can get the most eyes on what they got going on for 2021? And this year. The spectacle part is out of it, but like I said, it's still going on in the background. Just not quite so visual.
Maybe people save some more of these builds and products and whatnot for this summer at Daytona Truck Meet. Maybe I think they just actually released their summer dates. I believe it's in June. So
yeah, I'm sure they'll take a lot of the resources they're saving from not participating directly in the show.
Right. Also, because there were even some big brands that even pulled out of SEMA just to go to other shows and stuff because they felt they might have had a little bit more bang for their buck, or can go direct to customer.
So I'm sure that a lot of those resources will be poured into product, poured into other shows. So we'll still see some exciting things coming up for the rest of this year in 2021. Just not as many sneak peeks as we usually get.
Well, no excuse next year for SEMA crunch, because you've got tons of time.
Right.
Just keep polishing, keep doing your thing.
All these builders who probably were getting ready for the last 6 months, because there was no word on SEMA getting canceled until
it was late.
It was late. Yeah. So some of the builds
you had to commit.
Some of these builds that they do for SEMA can take like up to a year. Like SEMA ends and then they're already starting to build for next
more.
SEMA.
I mean, it's some of these project cars guys have been working on for years, and they just they bring it to SEMA when it's done that year.
Yeah.
So next year they'll have a whole extra year for building and polishing.
It might even be better. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a silver lining to this, maybe.
I did say that. I suppose next year, though, at least in the truck and off-road space, anybody that built something this year is probably just going to scrap it or sell it, because next year is probably going to be all Broncos.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. No more Gladiators. Gladiators.
You got to have the newest models.
That's true.
Everybody had the Gladiator there. I imagine that this year would have been even more Gladiators.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
when the Gladiator
some Supras.
was released, that last SEMA was insane how many Gladiators there were.
It was all Gladiators and Supras. I think I know this is a truck podcast, but I feel like every Supra that Toyota sold was at SEMA.
Yes.
And Gladiators were probably pretty close to it. So everybody's got to, sell the Gladiator, pick up their Bronco. And
so in this next one, we might see Broncos,
TRX.
Yeah, TRX.
Rivian, absolutely.
Maybe Rivians.
Maybe the Hummer.
Because if they might not have them, on lots or be shipping a lot of them, but if there's even a few on the road, there's a good chance some are going to be there.
It'll depend on the exact release date, I suppose, but that would be the first.
Maybe electric F-150s.
I think that's 2022.
Is it?
Yeah, and the Hummer.
Yeah.
Was 2022.
It's going to be the electric SEMA. The next SEMA is going to be the electric SEMA.
It might, but those Broncos would be pretty sweet. And this is a little off topic, but speaking of the Broncos, I saw they released their pricing and their packages and their pricing scales and stuff like that. So of course, it's another one of those vehicles that I'm not even going to say the numbers because I don't want to get it wrong. But I think I guess I'll try. It was like 30,000 was the base. You could work it up to 60.
It's not. Yeah, actually, we could probably do a whole episode.
We probably
next time we'll configure our own Bronco and see where we end up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course there's always just big variants in a lot of these new vehicles and stuff, but didn't seem too bad really. Guess same could probably be said about a Jeep Wrangler or something, where there's a 2-door and 4-door, and you have base to unlimited Rubicons.
A lot of
things,
options.
So.
Yep.
But so speaking of that, when we're speaking of trying to configure a vehicle or choose your vehicle, and especially ones that have 2-door or 4-door, such as the Bronco, I think where maybe a lot of truck owners might have trouble deciding is a midsize or a full size. So I know you are, you're as far as you can go on the full size spectrum.
I mean, and I have the smallest.
He's the XL.
I have the Excursion and the Acura.
They don't even make them that big anymore.
I have the biggest vehicle and the smallest vehicle.
Currently. Do you remember how much they talked about the Excursion when it came out and just like how absurdly large it was?
I don't. And this would be a good time for a generational joke from Forrest right now, because how old was he?
Forrest was.
They came out in 2001?
2000.
2000. So I was going into first grade.
Not exactly reading Car and Driver at the time, I don't think. Probably not.
Probably saw him in the pickup line at school, though, at elementary school.
That's true.
Sure. I saw some people driving there.
I mean, it
probably
was
jealous of the other kids that were watching, their tapes in the back.
Yeah.
Like you can in Dustin's.
And the VCR.
The king of
I bring that up
SUVs.
every time. I'm sorry.
That is great.
I love it.
But yeah, and then Chris also has a new Colorado, a new Duramax Colorado, so midsize, very cool. But it seems there's more midsize coming out now. I think that's still a very popular option, but the full size are only getting bigger. The gap seems to almost just be getting wider. You still have your Tacomas, your Colorados, Canyons, your Rangers now.
Frontiers still out there.
Frontiers are still out.
Yep. You could say Gladiator too, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess a Gladiator would be considered a midsize, and then your full size, your F-150s, your new Rams, your Chevys, Sierras. Those are just getting bigger and bigger. So it almost seems like there's a wider gap. There's certainly pros and cons to both.
Yeah, I mean, the full size still does outsell the midsize.
For sure.
And I think that's why Ford didn't come out with the Ranger until last year, 2 years ago.
Last year.
Just because the midsize still wasn't it's getting more popular, but I mean, the full size is still king.
It is.
As far as what you're buying, though, I mean, I think it's just going to come down to what purpose you have for the vehicle.
Exactly. I would agree with that. I've never owned a midsize. That's not to say that I won't or I wouldn't in the future. I do like the bigger cab. I feel like I'm a little bit bigger of a guy, so just kind of feel like I fit in that.
Full size are definitely more comfortable.
A little bit, but I love a lot of the practicality of some of the midsize too. Chris, maybe you want to elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately why I ended up in a midsize. Certainly, the off-roading thing, a smaller vehicle is a lot easier to kind of get down trails. That's why they're so popular in that area. And I actually don't know where I stand on the midsize, full-size thing. I'm definitely, like, from the off-roading world, I'm like, midsize made all the sense. But kind of as I have had this truck, I think if I sold it, I'd be looking at a full-size diesel. But not 100% sure.
Okay.
It might just be the solid axle thing that I'm after. So like a Ram or a Power Stroke is interesting to me in that regard. But
that is twice the size of your vehicle currently.
I know.
So I think you might.
Every time I drive one, I'm like, oh, this would be terrible. And then, and I go back to like, certainly getting around in my truck is a lot easier. But, putting together some notes. I mean, you talked about full-size trucks just getting bigger and bigger, and mid-size trucks are huge too. I almost wish there were, the original Rangers, the Nissan hardbodies, the Toyota trucks. Like,
I guess they used to be tiny.
They used to be tiny.
Yeah, they were.
And I like that.
Small.
Like that would be cool. My truck is bigger. I did that so we had a 97 Suburban,
Oh, your truck's bigger than that.
Well, it's not bigger than a Suburban, but I just kind of like used, that body style Silverado as a gauge. My truck, the Crew Cab Colorado 2016, has more front headroom, more front legroom, more rear headroom, more power, higher towing capacity, weighs the same. It is only 2 inches shorter than a Silverado of that vintage, 1500.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that's
but then
that is a really good indicator. And
You compare it to the old Tacomas?
Oh, I
don't know if I could fit in one.
the old
Yeah.
Tacomas.
I don't even know. Those things are
They
so
were
small.
they were also called mini trucks back then.
That's
if,
also
if, you're
true.
if you're talking about mini truck,
But I mean,
magazine,
even
I
the,
want that scene to come back. Not that I like it or like am really into it. I just
when are you gonna install hydraulics on your truck?
seeing
so
car
that it can
scenes
start
die
moving
is just
around?
kind of sad anyway. But
because
Yeah,
I bought full size on my most recent buy, and I probably will in the foreseeable future. But I love those Tacomas.
Oh, talking about the old ones?
No, new ones.
Oh, new
I love
ones.
new Tacomas.
They're really
You can
nice,
build
yeah.
them super cool. There's a bunch of cool off-road features in them. They're reliable. They hold their value. They're just, I don't know, they look aggressive, but they're probably just easy to drive. They get good gas mileage, low cost of ownership, stuff like that. They look really neat, but I just wanted to go with a bigger cab and stuff. But there are a lot more mid-sized trucks out there, and Rangers I'm starting to see around quite a bit more. They're, of course, one of the perks is a mid-size is generally going to be less expensive than the equivalent full size.
depends. I mean, one of the things that's
How much was that Bronco? 60,000.
Well, no, I mean, look at an optioned out Tacoma.
Yeah, those
I'm not 100% sure on
really
Rangers, but even Colorados when they came out, with the diesel and the ZR2, they were getting pretty expensive.
But
but
you could option out a Tundra, an F-150, or a Silverado more.
sure, but if you're looking at kind of a middle of the pack trim package, oftentimes the rebates that the manufacturers are running on the full size trucks are so aggressive that if you're looking at a Tacoma or diesel ZR2 like the Bison or something like that, you're probably north of $40,000 on each of those. And at that point, the jump to a Silverado is only $5,000 to $8,000. If you're looking at high 40s to 50 for a full size truck with decent options.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, you're not that far off. So that's after rebates and other things. Not you're not paying what's on the window sticker.
Yeah, and they're certainly Tacomas have been pretty good selling for a while. Those have always been pretty popular. I actually wonder if they outsell the Tundra. They have to.
I don't have those stats.
I don't have those stats. I should have looked that up. Somebody look that up. Comment. But yeah, I was just curious because I know obviously when you got yours, I'm sure you probably went through that stage when you were shopping, as did I when I was just shopping most recently. And because I don't buy full size necessarily for tow capacity. Like it's nice to have sometimes. I don't really tow that heavy. I rarely max it out. I might max out the gas truck now, though, honestly. But do you know off the top of your head your tow capacity on your Duramax Colorado?
It's like 7,700 pounds.
Okay, so I still might be a hair more.
Yeah. So the 4x2 is obviously a little bit higher than that. I think it's 7,800 or 7,900. But I didn't buy it for towing.
Right.
I bought it because I wanted the convenience of a smaller truck, easier to drive, easier to park. The diesel still makes great power.
What's your gas mileage?
With all the armor and stuff on it now, it's like 25. But it was 30 stock, tuned in stock.
That's a reason to go mid-size diesel on its own right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we were going to talk about that in a little bit more detail too, but the mid-size diesel thing, the reason I bought a Colorado is because Chevy was the first company to offer a mid-size diesel truck. We've seen them overseas for years. They finally brought one over. I'm like, you get my money. You were first. Mm-hmm. I'm all about it. You get the power, the torque, the mileage.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I'm not 100% sold that it's a great option. There's been a lot of reliability issues on the 2.8. The Eco Diesels, which I know that's not
the Ram Eco Diesels,
a mid-sized truck, but that had pretty significant teething issues. We don't know about.
I think the Nissan
Jeeps.
XD a little bit.
They don't even sell that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's your answer. And then the Jeep diesels, they've had some issues. They've had some issues with those. It actually has quite a bit lower towing capacity.
Yeah,
and they have to detune the engine drastically.
Cooling issues.
Yeah,
they didn't want to redesign the front
slot
end.
grill. They don't want to redo it. That's a separate conversation. That irritates me. But I mean, I get it, I guess. But yeah, I think that let's go ahead and jump into like mid-size, full-size diesels. I mean, I don't necessarily know if somebody is shopping between those two. If somebody's like, man, I can't decide if I want a mid-size or a full-size diesel. I don't know if that's what they're balancing. But obviously, full-size diesels are I guess a lot of the full-size diesels now, your 6.7 Cummins, your 6.7 Power Stroke, your Duramax. It's just different variations of the same engine. They've had those for a few years. They're tried and true. They'll hold up very well in all sorts of climates, towing very heavy, getting very hot, high mileage, and they're built for work. They still produce very good power. They're not known for gas mileage, versus the mid-size diesels have been having a little bit more trouble, but you get amazing gas mileage out of it. Mm-hmm. And it's arguable that you could put more miles on a mid-size diesel than a mid-size gas engine. You know,
conceivably, you know, fingers crossed at this point. Right. You know, they're not
a little bit too.
The issues aren't pervasive, but they're out there.
They're fun to drive. They sound cool, and they do use the green pump.
And they do. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the issues, and so one of the reasons I just jumped in on the Chevy was because they've been selling that motor overseas for a decade or more.
Ford did too, right?
So I'm like, okay, how bad could it be? Yeah. But and a lot of, I guess the issue on new diesels in general is all the emissions equipment.
So even when you change country to country, although the engine itself has still been around, right? The core is the same, but all the emissions
and that seems to be where a lot of people are having problems. So
still haven't perfected it this many years later.
No,
and I mean even on full size diesels, that can still be a problem. It's just not as much of a problem because they're originally produced for the U.S. market, so they probably designed everything with U.S. emissions in mind. Yeah, versus the other way around, maybe.
Right. I mean, it took Ford how long to get their emissions systems?
Well, that's true. Well, everybody, when emissions on diesels got really serious around 2008, everybody's got real bad.
Yeah, everyone's struggling.
Everyone's got real bad. Yeah, even the EGRs before that. But then when you start getting the DPFs and DEFs around 2008, everyone had big problems around then. And it's getting progressively better. It's getting a good.
So
better.
They've gone through the troubleshooting era with the full size diesels, and right now we're maybe getting closer to that point with the mid-size diesel engines.
Yes, that's a good point. So it might be exciting to see what a mid-size diesel might look like in
another 3-4 years.
Another 3-4 years, right?
I don't think you're going to see any.
Really?
Ford didn't bring any to the table. I mean, Jeep just did, but Chevy's already canceled theirs.
With the progress that electric is making, honestly, that might overstep diesel. That might get here before diesel.
A diesel mid-size. I mean, you're going to pay how many more thousands of dollars to get the mid-size diesel engine over the gas?
Well, that might get us back on topic for trim package discussion because so I had to get the LT, and on paper, I think the diesel upgrade, I don't remember exactly, but it was like $3,000 or $3,500. But that's one of those things. It's like, well, yeah, the motor is $3,500, but you also can't get it without the new rear end, this interior package you have to have if you're going to get the diesel. It was like $600 or $6,500 at the end of the day for the diesel versus gas.
Because of all the other
stuff they added. So they, when they released it, they said it was going to be a few $1,000s, and then you go to buy one and it's $600 or $6,500 premium.
Yeah,
because obviously the diesels won't run without leather interior, of course.
No, they do. Leather was not required, thankfully, because I don't like to get leather.
No leather, gang.
No leather, gang. High five. Air high five. All right. COVID safe.
First time not having. This is my first vehicle without leather.
And do you like it or not?
Like 11. Yeah. Okay. So this is good. This is a good transition.
Yeah. I don't need to pay for that.
So, man, I don't even know where to start. So I get very passionate. I get very passionate about trim packages.
I was gonna say I can keep rolling if you want.
Yeah, I get very passionate about trim packages, and I'll tell you why. Because sort of like we talked about in the beginning of this episode,
I get real confused about trim packages.
That's why I'm with both of you. I'm confused and passionate, so I'm not going to make any sense when I
purposely try to make it confusing. I think, and the price differences for the same truck, different trim packages or different options can be wildly different. Tens of thousands of dollars different just for different interior trims and things like that. And then that's when you're buying it new. Then when you get to the used market, that even changes again. And it gets pretty weird. And then I know Ford trim packages the most just because I've had Fords and that's what I've most recently shopped. And I just became familiarized with those a little bit more. But so I'll start with my most recent truck. I got a 2016 F-150, and I got the XLT Sport Ultimate. I'll tell you the reason I did that. I initially wanted a Lariat. That's normally what I would shop for. I almost kind of wanted to try cloth seats because I'm starting to just use my truck a little bit more, whether it's just like hunting or fishing or just like outside or whatever, and you're muddy or dirty or something, or I keep like I got a pen in my back pocket or whatever, and then like I'm like, I scratched my seat, and like you're almost like, I got to put towels down, or I throw my dogs in the back all the time, and then I'm worried about, don't scratch the leather, or, whatever. So that's why I just haven't got that. So I was like, let's try this, because also I feel like cloth interiors have been getting progressively better over time too. And I mean, you still get some leather trim on the doors and on the console and things like that, but you're actually just sitting on cloth. So I feel like I can use it more as a truck now. I don't care if it gets that dirty. It's easier to clean. It's easier to repair. I can get seat covers if I want. I could turn it into leather seats if I want. Just get cat skin seat covers, and boom, I own a Lariat basically.
Yeah, I think I would be equally mad if I got either leather or cloth dirty. But just the fact that you can get nice like leather pleather seat covers to put over cloth.
I have seat covers over my cloth seats.
Yeah,
exactly. Just because I'm usually like sweaty or dirty or something from biking or going out in the woods or whatever.
When I had that Platinum, I would not allow any of my dogs in my truck at all, ever. And my wife hated it. And she's like, why do you own a truck then? I'm like, yeah, you're right, honestly. Like, why do I own a truck? If I'm like, I'm not going to throw my dogs in the back of here.
Yep.
So I had to try to cram them all in her car because I'm like, they scratch it. It's not like I can just go get this repaired easily. Or like King Ranch or Platinum Interior or whatever. It's like I can't go get it repaired easily. The interior upholstery shop down the road just doesn't have the same thing. It isn't going to wear the same, or it might be super expensive, and they got to try to match this stitching or whatever. I mean, they might be able to do it, but it'd probably be real expensive. And you don't buy a Platinum Interior to have it all scratched up.
That's why you get the leather seat cover for the leather seats.
No.
Come on, you're saving it either. What the way I see it is you're saving it for resale value. That way you get,
that's what I hate.
You get to enjoy. You get to enjoy the leather seats.
Then why did I pay for it? I don't get to enjoy it if I'm sitting on something. It's just for resale value for the next guy to enjoy because I maintained it well for him.
I didn't know you were so passionate about that.
Okay. So
he's
also
apparently passionate about seats. And
so
the cover material, not so much the trim package.
XLTs, right? So they have the XLT, which, as you know, is kind of, I guess you could consider it like the middle trim package on Ford. It goes XL, XLT, and then you got no, actually I added more now. So
I'm already confused.
STX, XLT, and then you go into you can get Lariat, and then Platinum, King Ranch, Limited.
Okay.
And those last are in no order, I guess. And then, but then within an XLT, you can get an XLT Sport, an XLT Ultimate, and you can add all these individual packages on to change it.
That's where it kills me because there's multiple things. There's trim packages, but then there's options that you can put on those trim packages,
which can change the trim package drastically.
Yeah.
So what I found out, this is my last rant on the XLT. So, the XLTs before 2018, you could not get CarPlay. I needed CarPlay in my next truck,
which is what you just plug your phone in and it gives you some phone
So it's Apple CarPlay, so you can plug your phone in and then it brings up. You have CarPlay in your car, right?
Yeah.
So it's great.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
It's the best. But in XLTs or anything below a Lariat, you could not get CarPlay before 2018 in an F-150. I figured out though they bottlenecked it on the USB port. It can literally everything else can have it, but they try to upsell you to a Lariat. That's another one of the reasons for them to try to upsell you to a Lariat.
That's what I've noticed.
I found on a forum, there's a long part number. They said, print this out, take it to your Ford dealership, say you want one, don't tell them what it's for because they're going to tell you it doesn't work, but trust me, it does. Spend the $40. It might even be less than that. And it's literally just the 2 USB plug that goes in front of my console. Popped it out, some screwdrivers, took the plug off, plugged this new one in. I have CarPlay. It's ridiculous that they purposely did not add that.
Ford's going to come in here and shut us down because we're releasing their secrets.
Yeah.
Moving on to
anyone who has an XLT and you don't have CarPlay, look it up on a forum, find the part number. I might even try to find it and put it in the description. Go to any Ford dealership. That's it. We're done. We're done with these silly trim packages trying to trick us into buying the next higher one, but you can buy a $30 part. Now spend the extra $5,000 to go to Lariat. Anyway,
save your money, spend it on other stuff. Lift wheels, tires.
Yeah, I mean, just because you want CarPlay, you got to go to a Lariat, which includes like a backseat coffee maker, which I mean you're never gonna use. So it's like you're getting pushed into all these different things. Like, where's my a la carte menu of trim and options?
So see, that's what I did. I ordered my truck. Now you still get roped.
More freedom.
You get a little bit more. You still get roped into some of the nonsense. But all I care. So this is tricky because there's so many off-road packages now that are of interest to me, and I know we've talked about a lot of those. But when I go to buy a new truck or car for that matter, I get into the lowest package that gives me like the big infotainment screen, the best engine option. So if it's, if you want the 5.0 and the F-150 or whatever, that's obviously not available on a base model, or maybe, but I'm just as an example, okay, going back to my diesel, you can't get that in a base model. Right, you got to get into an LT to get it. So I'm going into the lowest package that gives me like the infotainment, like the premium infotainment because I'm not like Dustin. I don't like doing stereo stuff. I want a factory. In that regard, I want a factory. I just want it to work.
Yeah. I get the bad stereo just because I know I'm going to rip it out and put a good one.
So I'm all focused on like lift wheels, tires, bumpers, winch, exterior stuff, tonneaus, whatever. I just want to get straight into that. But the Raptors, the ZR2s, the Rubicons, the TRD Pro, that's where I could go astray. And like budget creep could get real.
Yeah.
Just because those come with so much more. It's not like you're not getting like weird trim packages, weird options, things like that.
Once you hit a certain level, you can't dial it back. It's all of this is included at this particular level. And like you were saying, you might just not need that.
Yeah.
But they require you to pay for it. Like the new high end, if you go to new, I'm not as familiar with like the new Denali's and High Countries, but the new Ram Laramie Longhorns and the new like F-150 Platinums and Limiteds are bonkers. It is crazy nice.
They're
some of the nicest
luxury
They're
vehicles.
so luxurious, like nicer than I've been in new luxury sedans. And this is like, it's way nicer. It's insane.
I keep saying that the new full-size trucks are the new family sedans because they're so comfortable.
They are so comfortable.
And I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Yeah, the manufacturers are definitely like diving into that, making these things like luxury vehicles because they
get
know
massaging seats.
That's insane.
You can get heated and cooled rear seats. The infotainment systems are crazy. Adaptive cruise, all these really cool features.
I don't need all that either.
And then like in these new Rams,
a refrigerator, a microwave,
it's actual stainless steel trim. It's not like chrome plastic. It's actual stainless steel trim. It's real wood that's like mill cut. It looks so good. It feels so good. It has everything you need. It's so luxurious.
Yet you said you'll never pay for that.
No, not new. Not new.
Not new. Used though.
I'm gonna give 2 tips.
Boy, I hope the guy that you're buying your used trucks from really put those seat covers on there just so that you can enjoy the seat covers.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to buy from an old guy, first owner. He put seat covers on it so that I can take them off and enjoy it.
Actually, at some point, you should probably just become a truck salesman so that when you sell a truck to someone that is a truck you want to have in the future, you can kind of on the side say, I'm gonna hook you up with some seat covers. You call me in 3 or 4 years and I'll pick this up off.
Because he's gonna come trade in for the next vehicle.
Right.
There you go.
That's fine.
Keep it fresh for me.
Yeah. Well,
P.S. If you want to throw some forces on there, I wouldn't mind either.
Eat that depreciation.
A lot of my 2 pro tips, at least when I was deciding. So the new, like you were saying, the new Ford STX, which is basically an XL, but they
with a sport package.
But they
option.
took what Chris was talking about in mind, where they say, all right, what is the must-haves for most people, and how do we drive that price as low as possible? So it comes with a big infotainment. It comes with a full center console. Most are 4-wheel drive, and you're allowed to get higher engine options in them.
That's my jam then.
But
I want that.
Everything else is like XL interior. Most are vinyl floors, not carpet. Like they drop the price as low as possible, but you get the full infotainment system. You can get CarPlay and all these other things, but it drops the price really low. So that's a pretty neat option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then the other is if you're shopping used, if you're shopping for a Lariat used, I would honestly suggest look for a Platinum or a King Ranch used, because at the used market, they're not that different. They're not that different in price. Mm-hmm. You could spend maybe an extra $1 or $2 grand.
And are you still talking F-150s, or are you bleeding over into full-size diesels again?
Either.
Well, I would imagine that's true in the diesel market, just because a diesel holds its value incredibly well anyway.
You could spend maybe another $2,000, and maybe instead of getting that Lariat, you get into a Platinum or a King Ranch, where new that might have been a $10,000 or $15,000 difference. Just a few years old, and it brings that gap a lot closer together on all these different trim packages. So you might not think you can afford it. You're just looking at Lariats because that's what you think you can afford. look at the used Platinums and King Ranches, Limiteds, things like that.
Yeah.
Price difference is not that great.
And these vehicles,
in the used market.
new vehicles are so much more reliable than new trucks are so much more reliable than old trucks. Buying a truck with 20, 30,000 miles on it is not. It doesn't hold as much risk as
I would throw out a number that's higher than that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and even also sometimes people go, this used to be maybe an older way of thinking, but where they would say, I'm going to get the roll up windows because I don't want the motors to break. I'm not going to get
that was me.
I'm not going to get these crazy
That's going
features.
way
I'm not
back.
going to get these crazy features because I don't want these crazy features to break. I don't want to, whatever. But even these, 2015 F-150 Platinums with over 100,000 miles on them, they're over, they're 5 years or older now. And they're running fine. They're massaging seats, still working. Like they don't really seem to break that much. I'm sure if they did, it would still cost you, a good chunk of change. But it doesn't really seem to be that way anymore.
That was
I
definitely
used to
my
go by an
concern.
old 7 Series. I mean, you can find the BMW 7 Series. You can find those for peanuts now because those things, the expensive electronical components will break. And then they're really hard to fix, or you got to take it to a dealer.
Dealership for it,
or it
stuff.
won't run because of something. But I think we might be getting to the end of that now. So.
hopefully. I'm still nervous about it because the infotainment screen in my truck, it has it's touchscreen and it has buttons, and I try to spread out my use of both so I don't wear anything out. I don't want to use the buttons too much. Sometimes I go backwards through music instead of forwards just so I press the other side a little bit. I'm also a guy that turns his windshield wipers to exactly the frequency necessary given the amount of rain because I don't want to use them too much. And
I think
wear
they
out
make
the
medication for
blades.
this, Chris.
That's a
The
different
people like
level.
me out there, man.
Holy cow! I guess if you got a Chevy, you might have to worry about wearing out those buttons.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wearing out the color on the buttons. Yeah.
That looks horrible, and I don't want to
You
spend
should get like a
$1,000
stylus.
replacing all that.
So you're not even getting the grease from your finger like a big push. You just get a stylus, so you can just
The
really
light,
accurately
the lightest
put
touch.
a lot smaller fingerprint
Most
on there.
efficient.
Yeah.
You're not going to wear anything down.
Truck
I'll tell you
stylus
what.
is coming to RealTruck.com.
The person that buys his truck from him is going to enjoy all those features that he kept so
You're right.
nice and clean.
And then they go, oh, thank goodness you already drilled into the A-frame for me and cut up the rear quarter panel.
So glad you put a 8-inch circle through your fender. It's perfect. That's exactly what I've wanted.
Oh, I'm gonna end it with this because we got to get going. But now that I'm slowly turning into Chris King and I added a bumper onto my truck now, I got to cut for the first time. Woo! At least a while. Woohoo!
Permanent
So, that was
modification.
fun. Yeah, angle grinder and a Sawzall. Just,
Feels good, right?
Steel on the frame. It was good.
I'm
Cutting
proud
out
of you.
plastic and cutting out all that stuff. It was good. It was the crash bars, which don't really count, but
Yeah, I mean, you
still heavy. It's still
you put
thick,
your
heavy steel.
you put your toe in the water. That's the important first step.
When you got to get out black spray paint to touch up bare metal,
Yeah.
on the
Just
underside
so-
of your truck, you did work that day.
Yep.
You did good.
Congratulations.
That was a W.
Proud of you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we'll bring that in here next time so we can look at it.
we will.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Well, that wraps us up for today. So make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for episode 7.